No music in the shop. Tim can't film nothing.
Gotta turn the music off. Here comes Tim. So it's gonna be a big day here in the shop. The guys have been working some crazy hours. Travis is doing some final touch-ups on the body. Today it gets color.
Yay!
Yay. So we're gonna wipe it down after you guys finish touching up the body. Gonna get some primer, I guess. And then
No, let's get a sealer.
sealer.
Come on, Tim. You've been doing this long enough.
Well, it's a good thing I screwed up because I gotta ask all these questions.
When we get it in the booth, we'll wipe it down, tape it up. We'll probably do a little more touch-up because of how we got to break our line on the bottom of the rocker. We're doing the flat clear on the bottom and the shiny clear. We just want to make sure that line is prepped as good as it can be. Finish taping all that, wipe it down real good, and he'll be ready to start shooting some sealer and base clear.
So how many coats of sealer?
One coat of sealer.
How many coats of base? Probably, maybe.
I'm going to say 4 to 5 coats of base and then 5 to 6 coats of clear.
That'll give us enough material to wet sand.
Sand it all back off, make it change.
We'll probably have another week of that, right?
Oh yeah.
Lots of sanding, lots of buffing. Then we can start final assembly.
Take this off. I'm going deep, buddy.
Uh-oh. So what sealer are we using?
So this is Black Ad Pro Glazerite sealer. So 93471 is the number. It lays out real smooth. And with the car being dark green, we need to have a dark sealer. So it'll be black sealer.
Big car, you ran out quick.
20 ounces sprayed already. There goes another 20.
There's only about maybe half the car, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, you got to think, no fenders, no doors, no trunk lid yet. So, Glazerite likes us right now. Alright. But as you can see, when we're spraying that, the black covers really well. One coat. You know, not many companies have a sealer that lays down like that. Gets that kind of coverage with one coat. You know, we'll keep going. Just get everything in one coat. We'll let that sit and dry for a little bit. And the green will cover really well over it. So we'll do 4 coats of green base coat.
And if you use a lighter sealer, it could change the tint of the color, right?
Technically, it should not if you have it covered. But what it does is you're going to use a lot more base coat to cover that sealer. So it could take, instead of taking 4 coats, it could take 6 coats.
Save a lot of money doing it that way.
Save a lot of money. And, you know, the more base coat you put on something, I think you get a little bit more texture. So it's the less base coat you can have, the better, really. You know, as you can see, we've got 2 gallons. We've got 3 gallons sitting here. 2 gallons are unreduced. Same color, but we mixed them together multiple times to make sure they're exactly the same mix.
What's unreduced mean?
we have not put any reducer in there yet. So you mix it 2 to 1 with reducer in order to spray it.
What's the reducer do?
The reducer thins it out so you can actually spray it through the gun.
Okay.
So we've got, like I said, 2 full gallons that are just mixed, unreduced paint. And now I've got something marked with reduced, that is reduced, so we keep everything straight, and I'll start spraying all of it. This will be for your first 2 coats, and then I'll keep 1 gallon that'll be just for the last 2 coats, because we're painting the car in pieces, so we want everything to match in the end. So we'll do, like I said, we'll keep a separate gallon just for those last 2 coats. It's very important, I think, to get exact match panel to panel. Gotta grab the hardener. This is chump change green.
Chump change? Oh, is he still stuck on chump change?
Chump change green, buddy.
So we've got 2 coats of base on it.
Yeah, 2 coats of base.
What are you doing now?
I put a little heat on it for a little bit, just about 15 minutes or so. And then now I'm going back over it with 1000 grit, just dry sanding. And that's just to get little tiny imperfections out, like little dirt nibs. I just like to do that to ensure that we're not going to have any weird spots in the base coat. So denib everything. We'll blow the car off again, tack it one more time, and then put 2 more coats of base on to cover not only the sand scratches from the 1000 grit, but also to get full coverage and get a nice uniform, orientation coat put on, and then we'll be ready for clear. My hand. It's just a little, I'm just barely gliding over the top. It's hard to even see the sand scratches that are left in here. This is just enough just to make sure there's not any little tiny dirt nibs anywhere that are, you don't want that poking up through your color. And then the other thing that can happen is when you go to sand and buff, if you've got a dirt nib in your sealer, you could potentially have that show in your clear if you cut the top of the dirt nib off whenever you're sanding and buffing. So this eliminates that problem. Thumb kind of going around and actually,
What's that?
I use my thumb. It's always hanging off the sandpaper, and I'm using that to kind of feel around the panel to make sure I have stuff sanded smooth enough as I'm going.
So what are the nibs you were talking about? It's just
You can't, they're so small you can't even see them, but if you run your hand across, you can feel just ever so slightly. There'll be just little tiny particles.
the stuff that might be floating in the air.
Just stuff that's floating in the air. I mean, it can be coming out of little crevices on the car. We've got it taped up tight, but it's still, there's air moving in this booth, right? So if there's anything on the floor, we do have the 3M dirt trap down, but you still can get turbulence in the booth and things can come up and land in your base coat. It's just the way it goes. So to try to get as clean of a finish as we can, even though we are going to sand and buff it, you don't want imperfections in your color. The clear, you can sand and buff your clear, which we always do that, but we just don't want any kind of like tiny little dirt nibs or anything in the sealer, or that were left over from sealer or base coat in here in the final finish. So like here, if you can zoom in on that little spot, see that little spot?
Yeah.
Yeah, so and you're just basically gonna, you can highlight it a little bit more there. And we're just kind of cutting the top of that off. And then we'll put base over that. There won't be a little high spot anymore.
This is one of the steps you do for like really nice paint job.
Yeah, if you're like trying to go the extra level, to the extra,
Which we are.
top detail stuff. And honestly, like most people that would see the car, they wouldn't know if they saw the little tiny dirt nib in the base coat or not. But we know it's there, and we're always striving to do the best job we possibly can. So just one more little step that we do. This is common, right? A lot of guys in the industry are doing this. It's not anything new. But when you're in a hurry, it's not something you necessarily have time for, but you got to make time for it.
Yeah.
These lines are so sharp.
Oh, I know.
It's crazy.
They look awesome.
Yeah. Before we went and knocked down the sharpness of this line, of all the lines on the car, I was sanding over here and hit my knee on the rocker panel, and it actually cut my damn knee open. Cut my knee open. I'm like, it's a little too sharp, right? We got to be able to buff against these things and not burn through. So we just lightly ran over them with 400 to knock down just ever so slightly the sharpness out of there. And now, if you ever see the car in person, look at the rear bumper. You'll see where that meets up against the quarter and the rear body line, and it matches the body line of the bumper now too. So we had to mimic that same finish. So we had Advanced Plating send us the bumpers back in copper so we could fit them to the car, but also I wanted to see how sharp they got the chrome or the copper coating on there, because the copper is basically like primer. So they got that all polished and done. So now we know exactly what it's going to look like when it's chromed. And we just mimicked that sharpness of the rear bumper on all of our lines.
You don't think you have enough?
Well, I get worried because we're painting this thing in pieces, so I have to be very careful.
Still got to do the fenders, the hood.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to mix batches so it doesn't match?
So what we typically do, like when I made these 2 gallons, we made these 2 gallons, right? Separately.
Yeah.
We mixed them. I took this gallon can and I mixed them back and forth a couple times in these cans just to make sure everything was the same. But you know, it's a big car. It takes a lot of color to get around it. So I want to have some extra just in case if something would ever happen to the car. We have extra paint. So I'm going to go ahead and make just a little bit more for the final color. Or actually, I'll mix these 2 together, and then I'll make more for our first 2 coats, that first color. It'll be fine for what we're doing today, but I'd rather have a lot of the final color just in case. It's just being safe.
Smart thinking.
Because at the end of the day, we want our customers to drive their cars. And if you're driving your car, chances are something's going to happen eventually, right?
You got to repaint something?
Yeah. So I like to have color. I mean, if you look on the shelf over here, we have colors. Some of these are, colors from previous builds, and we keep them in stock, especially the more recent cars, so we can do repairs if need be. Not
rock chips and scrapes.
Rock chips. I mean,
it happens.
It really does. It sucks, but it happens. And yes, sometimes we make our own mistakes here too, and we have to fix those. In case you're wondering.
It happens occasionally.
Yeah. All right, so some people, if you're a professional, you've done this before, you'll probably understand what we're doing with this trunk lid. But if you haven't painted cars before, there's something very critical to know about doing the trunk lid the way we are. So as you can see, it's hanging, right? It's not the way that it's going to be on the car. So yes, we are getting ready to spray our last 2 coats on the body before we clear this thing. But with the trunk lid, what we're going to do, we're going to put the final 2 coats on just the bottom side. We're going to let that dry, and then the trunk lid will come off of this stand and lay down flat on another stand like it's going to be on the car. And then we'll put the final 2 coats on the outside of the trunk lid. That way we know it's orientated the way it's going to be permanently on the car, and the color is going to lay the correct way. It's very important, I think, that you do it that way, so you have a better chance of panel painting this stuff off the car and getting it to match. So once we do that, we'll, like I said, we'll put it on the stand. We'll spray the last 2 coats on the outside. All this stuff's going to dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll put the trunk lid on the car, and we're going to lay out a stripe on the back of the car.
That was a big reason for that because of the pearl.
Yeah, pearl. Anytime you have pearl or metallic in a color, it orientates differently. And we're in a downdraft booth too, so the air is moving across the panel, drying at a different speed. There's a lot of factors there, and I'm not saying like I'm sure there's guys that'll say I've done it this way. I've sprayed a panel hanging like that and it matched, and that could be the case for some colors. But if you want to be sure, then I would recommend that you lay the panel down the way it's going to be on the car to put your last couple coats of base on. That way, there's no guessing. It's going to, as long as you spray off the panel, like when you're painting, it's important too to make sure your gun comes off the end of the panel. So you don't have a light edge or anything like that. But I mean, it's about technique, but also about the position of the panel. So two really important things there. Color's cool.
Looking good.
Okay. We're gonna let that, that's gotta flash off. We're using slow reducer. I like using slow reducer and base coat. To me, you don't have to work so hard to put the color down. You got slow reducer, it just naturally likes to lay down. You're not over applying base coat to get it to lay wet like we need to. So it's kind of, wouldn't call it effortless, but it's pretty close. You use medium reducer in a downdraft booth, you got a lot of air movement. Even if it's somewhat cool in there, you got to work a little harder, and you're applying a little more color. So your mill thickness might change. It's harder to get metallics to orientate the same way. So we use, this is our slow reducer from Glazzer at 352 216. It's in our base coat currently. So because we're using slow reducer, I give it a little bit more dry time between coats. Not much, but you just want that to be completely flashed off matte before you go back in and apply another coat.
Now, I always get asked, what's the color?
What's the color?
What is
Is
the
that color code?
Is it a color code? Is it a color name?
Actually,
It's probably a code, right? So we need to come up with a crazy, wacky name for it.
yeah, it's so the deal is with virtually every full custom build that we do, we make our own custom colors for each one. And even though, like, let's just say the F600 that we just built came out this year, it started off as Area 51 blue. That's in the, on all the new Broncos, right? However, that's what we started with. We alter every color, so it is unique to each one of our builds. So this green in particular is a full custom mix, right? And Ed, we had to sell Ed on doing this green to begin with, so I had to make this crazy green color in order to get him to bite on it. So it is a custom mix. Now we have a formula for it. We don't share our formulas for our custom mixes. I mean, that's very, I think our customers are paying us to make these colors, so it's proprietary, right? And it belongs to them and that particular build. So we don't share that information. I can tell you like on certain cars or colors like what we started with, and you can alter it and come up with your own variation of it. But this particular green was never on a factory car. We didn't start with a color that was on a factory car. It's a full custom mix.
Okay, so we just finished up the 3rd round of base coat. Charles is in there now putting on the 4th coat. Spared you guys because you've seen a lot of painting already in this video. It's going to sit overnight. In the morning, we're going to be taping off the rear deck lid. It's going to be getting a custom stripe. I think I have a picture of the rendering to kind of show that off. It's going to be getting painted in the accent color, which is the goldish bronze color that you see on the underside of the chassis and all that stuff. It's going to be all over the interior as well. Once that's taped off and we spray color on it, then we're going to be putting 4 or 5 coats of clear coat on it. Then it gets wet sanded, buffed. There's going to be a lot of hours in that. There's already a lot of time into this vehicle so far. Hopefully you're liking these more detailed videos. That's about it. So I'm going to call it a night. Go home, get some food, go to bed. Let Charles work a little later. We're going home. Please like, comment, subscribe. Share the channel with your friends. Buy some merch down below. That's about it. That's all I got for you. I'll see you tomorrow or see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more build videos like this, help us out by liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. And it's a little thing to do, but don't forget to turn on those notifications. If you want to buy merch, go to store.classiccarstudio.com. See you next time.